Hey guys, this is Eric from Invensis, and I welcome you to our YouTube channel. In this session, we are going to learn everything about Project Charter. Before we start, let us quickly go through the agenda. As you can see on the screen, we will understand what a project charter is, in detail. We will also take a look at the benefits of a project charter in project management. Then we will discuss how to develop a project charter. Post that we will discuss the various elements in a project charter. Then we will look at a sample project charter and discuss its anatomy. Finally, we will conclude this session by discussing some interesting tips on how to get started with a project charter. Before we begin today's session, if you like this video, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, to learn more about project management and its practices, check out Invensis Learning's Project Management Certification Training on PMP, CAPM, Prince 2, Project Management Fundamentals, PO, and MSP All. The necessary information is given in the description box below. Now, let's get started with the first topic of today's session. What is a project charter? Project charter in project management is simply a document that formally authorizes an ongoing project with a clear, concise of its goals. In short, it outlines the totality of projects to help team members quickly grasp the goals, tasks, timelines, and stakeholders involved. Let us analogize project charter with a movie ticket. Suppose you want to watch a movie during the weekend. Firstly, you choose the movie you want to watch. Then you go to the website and purchase the movie tickets. Here, if you notice, the tickets summarize everything you need to know about the movie, its duration, seat numbers, the time of its commencement, ticket price, and the approval for you to watch the movie. In the same manner, the project charter, along with a clear, concise of the project goals, also officially announces the commencement of the newly approved project. Therefore, it is not only an essential but a primary deliverable in any project. Since project charters are the gateway to the initiation of the project, and it also helps in the appointment of the project manager, who is responsible for the overall governance of the project. Project charters also guide the project manager with authority to assign resources to various project activities. Now, you must be wondering why one must take the time to create a project charter? There are several benefits. Let us discuss each of these benefits in detail. Benefits of a project charter. Firstly, the project charter gives formal approval to commence the project. It is a very important document to get started with any project. It also creates a common goal and shares the understanding of the entire project for the project manager, team members, and the stakeholders. As we have already discussed, it is also appoints a project manager to lead the project. It is important to identify and summarize the high-level objectives and scope of the project in a project charter. Another key section in the project charter is to define the outcome and deliverables of the project. It must gain interaction and support from the organization by announcing it to the whole organization. This document also ensures that key stakeholders are aware of the project. One of the important points is that it maintains the budget and resources for the project. Finally, it serves as the point of reference for the project team. Develop a project charter. Now that we have a clear idea of what a project charter is, let's discuss how to develop one in detail. To develop a project charter is the process of establishing a formal written document that authorizes the existence of a planned project and provides the designated project manager with legal authority to work with organizational resources to support various project activities. The document that has been curated provides a direct link between the project and the organization's strategic objectives. It also creates a formal record of the project and shows the organizational commitment to the project. This process is performed in the beginning or at predefined points in the project. The project charter establishes a partnership between the performing and requesting organizations, or you could say your stakeholders. In the case of external projects, a formal contract is a clear path to establishing an agreement. But a project charter may still be used to establish internal agreements within an organization to ensure the proper delivery of the project under the contract. As we have already discussed, the approved project charter formally initiates the project. Initially, a suitable project manager is identified and assigned as early as possible, preferably while the project charter is in its nascent stage and always before planning and assigning resources. The project charter can then be developed by the sponsor or the project manager in collaboration with the initiating entity. This collaboration enables the project manager to understand the project's purpose, objectives better, and expected outcomes or deliverables. This clear picture will better allow for efficient resource allocation to various project activities. You must be wondering, except for resource allocation, what other tasks do the project managers take up? The project charter also gives the project manager the authority to plan, execute, and control the project. Let us analogize this situation with the human body. If the entire body is represented as the ongoing project where actions are performed continuously, the project managers can be compared with the human brain. They are directly involved in making vital decisions for the project and control its smooth functioning. The next question you may ask is who these external entities/organizations that assign projects are. Projects are typically initiated by sponsors, programs, the Project Management Office, PMO, or even a portfolio governing body chairperson or authorized representative. The project initiator or sponsor must be appropriate to procure funding and commit resources to the project. Several factors may have been involved in the initiation of the project. This can be due to internal business needs or external influences. These needs or influences often trigger the creation of a needs analysis, feasibility study, business case, or description of the project situation. So, in short, chartering a project validates the project's alignment to the organization's required strategy and ongoing work. It is also important to note that a project charter is not considered a contract because there is no consideration or money promised or exchanged in its creation. Now that we have answered the questions of how, why, and when, let us get into the intricacies of project charters. Here, we will study the anatomy of a project charter, that is its elements. Moving ahead, we will discuss the inputs to develop a project charter in detail. There are 3 elements of a project charter: inputs of a project charter, tools and techniques, and outputs of a project charter. First, we will talk about the various inputs of a project charter. Firstly, you will require business documents that could support the project's objectives. The business case and the benefits management plan explain how the project will contribute to the business goals. The business case is a documented study that is used throughout the project life cycle. It lists the objectives and reasons for project initiation. It helps measure the success of the entire project at the end against the project objectives. A needs assessment is a part of the business case and often precedes it. The needs assessment involves understanding business goals, issues, and opportunities and recommending proposals to address them in detail. The results of the needs assessment may be summarized in the business case document. A business case may include but is not limited to documenting the following. Business needs, that is determination of what is prompting the need for action, along with a written statement documenting the business problem, including the outcome to be delivered to the organization. Analysis of the situation, identification of organizational strategies, goals and objectives, risks, success factors, cause of the problem, etc. Recommendation is a formal statement of the recommended option to track in the project. Evaluation is a statement describing the plan for measuring benefits the project will deliver. This should include any ongoing operational aspects of the recommended option beyond initial implementation. Now we will discuss the second source of information for building the business documents, benefits management plan. The project benefits management plan is a document that describes how and when the benefits of the project will be delivered and describes in detail the mechanisms that should be in place to measure those benefits. Now let us understand what a project benefit concerning the ongoing project is. It is defined as an outcome of actions, behaviors, products, services, or results that provide value to the sponsoring organization and the project's intended beneficiaries. Development of the benefits management plan begins early in the project life cycle, wherein the target benefits are to be realized. Now that we know that the benefits management plan describes key elements of the benefits and may include but is not limited to documenting the following. Target benefits, strategic alignment, timeframe for realizing benefits, benefits owner, metrics, assumptions, risks. If you want to develop a benefits management plan, you must use the information collected via the business case and needs assessment. By now, you must have an idea about the development and maintenance of the project benefits management plan. However, it is also important to know that it is an iterative activity. This document complements the business case, project charter, and project management plan. And this is why the project manager works with the sponsored organization to ensure that the project charter, project management plan, and benefits management plan remain in alignment throughout the project's life cycle. Now we have discussed the business case in detail, let's talk about the different results that contribute to a business case. Market demand. For instance, an automobile manufacturer authorizing a project to build more fuel-efficient cars in response to gasoline shortages. Then moving on, we have organizational needs. For example, an organization might combine staff functions and streamline processes to reduce costs due to high overhead costs. Next is customer request. For example, an electric utility authorizes a project to build a new substation to serve a new industrial park. Then we have technological advancements, for example, an airline authorizing a new project to develop electronic tickets instead of paper tickets. Then we have legal requirements. A paint manufacturer can authorize a project to establish guidelines for handling toxic materials. Moving on, we have ecological impacts, for example, a construction-based company authorizing a project to lessen its environmental impact. Then finally, we have social needs. For instance, an NGO authorizes a project to provide potable water systems and sanitation necessities to communities suffering from cholera. The project charter incorporates the appropriate and necessary information for the project from the business documents. Also, the project manager does not modify the business documents since they are not projected documents. However, the project manager may make recommendations. The next input for the project charter is agreements. As the name suggests, agreements are used to define the initial intentions for the project. So let us talk about agreements in detail. A contract is a mutually binding agreement between the buyer and seller. It is obligated to provide the specified products, services, or results. It also obligates the buyer to compensate the seller and represents a legal relationship subject to remedy in the courts. The major components in an agreement document will vary from each project and may include but are not limited to procurement statement of work or major deliverables, schedule, milestones, or date by which a schedule is required, performance reporting, pricing and payment terms, inspection, quality, and acceptance criteria, warranty and future product support, incentives and penalties, insurance and performance bonds, subordinate subcontractor approvals, general terms and conditions, change request handling, and termination clause and alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Now that we have discussed agreements in detail, the next question is the various forms of agreements. Agreements can be in the form of contracts, memorandums of understanding, MOUs, service level agreements, SLA, letters of agreement, letters of intent, verbal agreements, emails, or any other kind of written agreement. Moving on to the third input, we have the enterprise environmental factors. There are several factors of enterprise environmental that can directly affect the development process of project charter. Some of the factors are government or industry standards, for example, the product standards, quality standards, safety standards, etc. The next factor would be the legal and regulatory requirements and constraints. Also, the marketplace conditions are another important factor. Moving on, we have organizational culture and political climate. The organizational governance framework is also extremely important. For example, we will have to find a structured way to provide control, direction, and coordination through people, policies, and processes to meet goals. And the stakeholders' expectations and risk thresholds are other big factors that cannot be obscured. The next input for a project charter is organizational process assets. Firstly, we have the organizational standard policies, processes, and procedures. The portfolio, program, and project governance framework is also an enduring factor. Here the governance functions and processes to provide guidance and decision-making. Monitoring and reporting methods are also valuable assets. The template is also an important asset, for example, the project charter template. Finally, we have the historical data and learned repositories. For example, project records and documents, and information about previous project performance can influence decision-making. With this, let's move on to the next part of today's session and discuss the various tools and techniques required in developing a project charter. Firstly, it is important to have expert judgment. It is defined as judgment based on expertise in application or knowledge area, discipline, industry, etc., concerning the activity being performed. Any group or person may provide this expertise with specialized education, knowledge, skill, experience, or training in their field. For this process, expertise should be considered from individuals or groups with specialized knowledge of or training in the topics, organizational strategy, benefits management, technical knowledge of the industry and focus area of the project, duration and budget estimation, and risk identification. The next technique that must be incorporated in this process is data gathering. We will discuss some important data gathering techniques. The first technique is brainstorming. It is used to identify and come up with a list of ideas within a given period. This process is conducted in an environment with a group of people, usually led by a facilitator. So, brainstorming comprises two parts: idea generation and analysis. When developing the project charter, it can gather the required data or solutions or ideas from stakeholders, subject matter experts, and team members. Next on the list of data gathering, we have focus groups. The main goal of focus groups is to bring together pre-qualified stakeholders and subject matter experts to learn about their expectations, such as perceived project risk, success criteria, and other topics about a proposed product, service, or result. Here a trained moderator guides the group through an interactive discussion that is more conversational than a one-on-one interview. Next, we have interviewed. Firstly, let us understand what an interview is. It is a formal or informal approach to elicit information from stakeholders by talking to them directly. It is typically performed by asking prepared and spontaneous questions while recording the responses. They are often conducted individually between an interviewer and an interviewee, but may also involve multiple interviewers and multiple interviewees. There can be several advantages in interviewing experienced project participants, sponsors, other executives, and subject matter experts because they can aid in identifying and defining the features of the desired product outcomes. Interviews can also be a gateway for obtaining confidential information that could help develop the project. Also, a set of questionnaires and surveys can be used to gather data. They are a written set of questions designed to accumulate information from a large number of respondents. Questionnaires and surveys are most appropriate with varied audiences when a quick turnaround is needed, when respondents are geographically dispersed, and where statistical analysis can incur immediate results. Finally, we could implement benchmarking. Benchmarking allows us to compare planned results with the delivered outcomes to analyze best practices, generate ideas for improvement, and provide a clear basis for measuring performance in the future or existing deliveries. The organizations compared during benchmarking can be internal or external. Next on the list of tools and techniques, we have interpersonal and team skills. As we all know, conflicts are inevitable in any organization or project, and we must be ready to solve them immediately if we come across any. Conflicts can emerge from scarce resources, scheduling priorities, and poor personal work styles. However, team ground rules, group norms, and solid project management practices, like communication planning, reduce conflict and its problems. This is why we need conflict management. It can be used to help align stakeholders on the objectives, success criteria, high-level requirements, project description, summary milestones, and other elements of the project charter. Successful conflict management results in increased productivity and positive working relationships. When managed properly, differences of opinion can lead to increased creativity and better decision-making. On the other hand, the differences can become a negative factor, then project team members are initially responsible for their resolution. If the conflict escalates, the project manager should help facilitate a satisfactory resolution. A conflict needs to be addressed in its nascent stage, using a direct, collaborative approach. However, if disruptive conflict pursues, formal procedures may be used, including disciplinary actions. Different project managers may use different conflict resolution methods. There are 5 general techniques for resolving conflict. We will discuss these in detail. The first technique is withdraw/avoid. In certain situations, you must retreat from an actual or potential conflict situation, postponing the issue to be better prepared or resolved by others. Smooth/accommodate. Here it would be best to emphasize areas of agreement rather than areas of difference, conceding one's position to the needs of others to maintain harmony and relationships. Compromise/reconcile. You must search for solutions that bring some degree of satisfaction to all parties to temporarily or partially resolve the conflict. This approach occasionally results in a lose-lose situation. Force/direct. It is important to push one's viewpoint at the expense of others, offering only win-lose solutions, usually enforced through a power position to resolve an emergency. This approach often results in a win-lose situation. Collaborate/problem solve. Incorporate multiple viewpoints and insights from differing perspectives, requires a cooperative attitude and open dialogue that leads to consensus and commitment. This approach can result in a win-win situation. Moving on to the next factor of interpersonal and team skills, we have facilitation. It is the ability to effectively guide a group event to a successful decision, solution, or conclusion. A facilitator ensures that there is active participation, that participants achieve a mutual understanding, that all contributions are considered, that conclusions or results have full buy-in according to the decision process established for the project, and that the actions and agreements achieved are appropriately dealt with afterward. The last factor that affects interpersonal and team skills are meeting management. It includes preparing the agenda, ensuring that a representative for each key stakeholder group is invited, and preparing and sending the follow-up minutes and actions. Finally, the last tools and techniques to develop a project charter would be meetings. For this process, meetings are held with key stakeholders to identify the project objectives, success criteria, key deliverables, high-level requirements, summary milestones, and other extra information. Moving on to the next part of elements of a project charter, we will discuss the outputs of the developed project charter process. The first and the most obvious output is the project charter itself. As we have already discussed, the project charter is a formal document issued by the project initiator or sponsor that authorizes the existence of a project and provides the project manager with authority to apply organizational resources to project activities. It documents high-level information of the project and its product, service, or result, like the project purpose, measurable project objectives and related success criteria, high-level requirements, high-level project description, boundaries, and key deliverables, overall project risk, summary milestone schedule, pre-approved financial resources, key stakeholder list, project approval requirements that are what constitutes project success, who decides the project is successful, and who signs off on the project. Project exit criteria are what are the conditions to be met to close or to cancel the project or phase. Assigned project manager, responsibility, and authority level, and name and authority of the sponsor or other persons authorizing the project charter. At a concise level, the project charter ensures a common understanding by the stakeholders of the key deliverables, milestones, and the roles and responsibilities of everyone involved in the project. In the next output of the developed project charter process, we have assumption log. High-level strategic and operational assumptions and constraints are identified in the business case before the project is initiated and will flow into the project charter. On the other hand, lower-level activity and task assumptions are generated throughout the project, such as defining technical specifications, estimates, the schedule, risks, etc. So what role does the assumption log have to play in the project? As the name suggests, the assumption log records all assumptions and constraints throughout the project life cycle. Now that we have a basic understanding of developing a project charter, let us discuss a case study on project charter. Project charter case study. Let's check out an example on project charter. Because a project charter format should adapt to serve the objective and proposed work, it is worthwhile to consider an example of a project charter to create an IVS system. There are several key elements, and we will be discussing each of these in detail. Firstly, we have the project title, which gives a brief description of the project and generally a one-line title representing the entire project. Then we have the project leader. They are responsible for leading the project. They usually have a required competency related to project level. On the other hand, the process owner is the head of the area or sub-process. They are responsible for implementing all strategies identified during the project. The project sponsor is a coach or project reviewer responsible for getting approvals from all the stakeholders. We discussed business case in detail. In short, it deduces the purpose of the project. It sketches down a layout of the project and how it benefits the organization. The problem statement, put in simple words, is the baseline performance of the organization. We must mention the pain area of the organization that we want to improve. We will also need to specify the name of the main process and its sub-process. Also, the project's goals and objectives can also be defined based on the project's scope and problem statement. On the other hand, project scope is the boundaries of the project that will provide us a clear clarity on the project and its focus area. Therefore, it is mandatory to define an optimum project scope that will add value to our customers. It typically talks about what is included and excluded from the project, such as geographical areas, departments, type of resources, etc. Project milestones, as the name suggests, define timelines or dates of the project initiation and completion. So, for each phase of the Lean Six Sigma project, there will be a target date assigned. Project team members allow us to identify the members of the project and their roles and responsibilities. Finally, it is important to identify all the project's benefits that may be tangible or intangible. Tangible benefits are measured directly, for example, the project's profits, quality of the outcome, the performance of the deliverables, etc. Intangible benefits cannot be quantified. It includes customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, employee morale, etc. We will conclude this session by discussing the most important tips to implement while developing a project charter. Tips for writing a project charter. Writing effective project charters comes with experience. However, It is possible to write good ones initially by taking advice from professionals who have spent their careers learning how to write great project charters. The first and the most important tip is to keep it brief. Try to keep the project charter simple and brief. The whole point of a project charter is to summarize the important information about the project, so it is important to satisfy this condition. With this, we get to the second tip for writing an explicit project charter. Get to the point as soon as possible, with the details of the project. The next important step is to follow a template. After you realize how helpful a project charter is, you'll undoubtedly want one for all your team's projects. Don't waste time reinventing the wheel. Instead, create a simple template that you can use for all your project charters. Not only will it eliminate some manual effort, but it will also ensure you don't miss any important elements. Finally, make sure you involve your teammates and sponsors in the development of your project charter. Sure, it is the primary responsibility of the project manager to work on the project charter. Still, it would be smart to involve other team members to review its contents and improve its improvement. That's it, folks. With this, we have reached the end of the session. I hope you have liked the session. If this has spiked your interest and you want to know more about project management, I recommend you to opt for PMP certification training and clear the exam. At Invensis Learning, we provide various PMP certifications that will pave the way for your career in project management. For each of these certifications, we are accredited by respective governing bodies or courses in line with their guidelines. Post-enrollment, you will get lifetime access to a personalized learning management system. LMS has all the class recordings, live class, webinar links along with assignments and case studies to practice. All classes are live instructor-led, delivered by trainers with rich domain experience. For more updates on trending technologies, subscribe to Invensis Learning YouTube channel. Also, if you have any queries, share them with us in the comments section.